did ask Dave Engstrom when I was here a couple weeks ago, asked him if we get a refund when we don't have a meeting because of this. He just laughed.
Sounds like a winner to me.
Yeah,
I don't see any
that
downside
was,
here.
That was the price cut he was offering.
Oh, okay. I'd like to call the May 7th, 2020 Lakeland Shores City Council meeting to order. Kim, would you mind taking roll call, please?
Councilmember Schroeder.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Bischoff.
Here.
Mayor Zeller.
Here. If you'd join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business is to adopt the agenda. I'd make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Just one item on the consent agenda. The item C is the Lower St. Croix Valley Fire Department Relief Association, the RA, just not the fire department itself. So
No, wait a second. On
the consent agenda,
Oh.
item C.
we'll adopt the agenda, but then we'll deal with the consent agenda. But
Okay.
for clarification, you'd like it to say
It's the Lower St. Croix Valley Fire Department Relief Association
relief. Okay.
bylaws. Yeah.
So actually, that is the appropriate. Now is the appropriate time. Okay. So I would accept the friendly amendment to the agenda as presented. John, do you accept that on your second?
I do. I second it.
I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item of business is the consent agenda itself. There are 3 items. Approve the monthly claims, the March 5th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes, and item C, which is resolution number 2020-05, Lower St. Croix Valley Fire Department Relief Association General Membership Bylaws. I would move that we accept the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public comments. Any public comments? No one's present this evening. We'll move into unfinished and new business. Consideration of resolution number 2020-04 adopting the 2040 Lakeland Shores Comprehensive Plan update. I'll provide some brief comments. Kim, if you have any, would you please add to this? Frankly, from my point of view, there just really are hardly any changes at all. In fact, nothing that I would argue is noteworthy to our previous comprehensive plan. We, you may recall, engaged Mark Nagel to represent us and to work the plan. And I think he's done a very good job for us and has been a great communicator, a great advocate at the Met Council level. We ran into a couple of challenges that, I was disappointed by, and that was the update of our, what would you call it, Kim, the water management plan? Again, nothing has really changed in this city relative to the water management plan in the last 10 years, but Met Council doesn't accept that, so we reached out to the WMO to see if they couldn't confirm that that was the case, and that wasn't good enough, so our engineers gratefully came in and helped cross the T's and dot the I's, and finally the Met Council agreed that we were in good shape. So all we need to do is adopt that updated plan that'll be good until 2040?
Mm-hmm.
It's a 20-year plan? I thought they were typically 10-year plans.
10 year.
It's a 10-year plan.
Your last one was 2030.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I guess I'll just conclude with one comment that we're hoping to meet with the Met Council and explain to them how expensive and time-consuming this is for us smaller communities that don't have the staff or the resources, and that when a community is 99.9% built out there ought to be a Cliff Note version of an update that we can do. As it is, I think we spent maybe $5,000-6,000 in 2+ years working on it, which is a little crazy to me. So we're not able to have that meeting until we're out of the woods on the pandemic. So with that, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-4.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? We'll call for a vote. Would you like to do that by roll call, Kim?
Yes. Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Councilmember Bischoff,
Yes.
Mayor Zeller.
Aye. That's really nice to get that off our plate. Item B is consideration and award of the 2020 pavement rejuvenation project. John, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. The attachments in our packet are pretty much self-explanatory. Apparently this is the new thing and is something that needs to be done to projects that are approximately 10 years old. I believe we're talking about, as everybody knows, that it is Quinlan. That would be the part from 2nd Street North all the way over to Division, which is obviously interrupted by, those are both dead ends, but, so it's those, and those were done in 2011, I believe. And then there's Quixote from Upper 3rd Street to Upper 3rd Street North, which is one that was done in 2012. When I say done, I mean I assume that they were repaved in some way. And so this is supposed to prolong the life of the asphalt, and this particular contractor is going to be doing stuff, I believe, not only in St. Croix Beach, but also in St. Mary's Point. And therefore, I believe the price reflects the fact that he's in the area and doing other work as well. The price is approximately $2,400. In looking at some of the emails from John Perotti, he indicated that Short Elliott would probably be, their cost would be somewhere in the $1,000 range for all of it. I believe that, for instance, in this packet of bills or things that we need to pay this month, there is a $300 or something like that cost already that we've incurred for what he's done so far to get these bids. My opinion of it is it's something that he recommends, and since I believe John Perotti knows what he's talking about, I believe we ought to go along with the rejuvenation projects, even though those are kind of very short streets and most of us never even get on them. So I would ask the City Council to approve an approximate amount, I believe an amount of $3,500, which is what we had set aside or at least mentioned in previous meetings.
Any questions for John? I'd make a motion that we award the pavement rejuvenation project for 2020. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor signify with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C is consideration of community award policy. Kim, do you want me to take that one?
Yes, feel free.
Okay. This really came up, frankly, as part of when we lost Randy Kopesky. And people have asked if there's anything we're going to do to, memorialize Randy here in the community. And I had talked about it a little bit with Kim and said that I think it's something we should consider. I had talked about it with other people in the community, and they pointed out that, there have been other people that have served this community for long periods of time as well, and that, if we're going to do it, we ought to really not just be thinking of one individual. We should be thinking of the past and the future. So Kim did a little research, and the nearest thing that we could come up with, or that Kim came up with, was there's a community award policy that Oak Park Heights uses. And I did spend some time, Kim, marking that up. I didn't provide that to you, but it's a little clunky, trying to get it, because that particular policy recognizes anyone in the community, not necessarily providing the opportunity, and that's an annual award that's then given to that person. Where what I think I'm trying to come up with, and like I said, I was marking it up, and it felt like I maybe should just start from scratch using some of their language. But there should be some criteria, I think, so that it doesn't get out of control. And then, where do we want, if let's say it's something on the bench like we had talked about previously, there's a cost associated with that. It's about $350. Is that right?
Mayor and council members, I will just ask, did you look at the markups I did?
No.
Yeah, I included in your packet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
That's okay.
I saw that.
I assumed that I knew what that was.
Because this, it's a lot shorter.
Okay.
Perhaps maybe it's still funky, I don't know.
Not if you worked it.
Two pages is not 20.
It's kind of set up as an award, an annual award that you guys would approve. The cost associated with it, and as an annual award, one every year, you could budget then for that. The cost for the plaque that I took a look at, that would be placed outside on the bench and installed into the bench, is about $180. It's the weatherproof bronze, so it'll be there for a long time. And again, that's why it was done kind of as an annual award type thing for businesses and distinguished residents of the community who have made a significant impact on the city. Again, as an annual, if you get a lot of kind of nominations type thing, you pick one, you can budget for that, put it in your budget, and not worry about the cost, as opposed to people submitting these, year-round. And the date on it is to be submitted by August 15th. I thought that would be the best time, because you typically always have a September meeting because of your budget.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look that over. Anything you would like to revise, change, add to is fine. It's not going to hurt my feelings, but we had to start somewhere.
That's great. Thank you. I'm a little hesitant to do it as an annual thing, just because, I think this is an award given to the person, where I think if we're putting it on the bench, we've got limited real estate there. I suppose, I don't know, do we want to limit it to citizens of our community, or do we want to limit it to people that have directly served our community, which may or may not limit it to elected officials? I guess I don't know. So those are some thoughts that I have. Would you guys give it a little bit of thought, and we can revisit it next month?
Certainly.
Sounds
I
good.
agree with you, Brian, a little bit. On the back page, they talk about winner and selection, and I think that's a bad choice of words. I just don't think it should be, if somebody wins this, they either deserve it or they don't deserve it. I think we're getting ourselves into something that we don't necessarily need to get ourselves into. I can understand it would be nice to have a policy, but there are, a lot of people since, I assume, 1949 have done positive things for the town of Lakeland Shores, and I think the reward comes from having contributed the effort more than, being necessarily recognized for it. Hopefully people recognize the fact that people are doing something for the town in general, and I'm not so sure that we need to even do anything for anybody. I just think it sets a bad precedent. When do we know? Do you have to be mayor for 12 years in order to get it? Do you have to be, a fantastic road commissioner for 2, whatever.
Right.
So,
I think, frankly, one of the two examples that are being pointed out to me, there's an honorary street name in Lakeland, and frankly, I was part of that. That was a little bit different. That was a street that was created as a result of that gentleman and his development, who passed early in life. And then the benches along the pathway that were just installed. It's my understanding their families paid for those plaques and those benches, or sponsored them, if you will, and that was about $3,500 a bench. So I think that's where some of the thought process is coming from a couple of individuals. So I don't disagree with anything you've said. I just, this is obviously fresh for us with Randy's passing, but I appreciate your comments. Let's just everybody give it a little bit of thought and we can bring it back. Kim?
Mayor and council members, then I would just recommend you guys, think about it. Mark this up if you would like, bring it back to whenever we have another meeting. And I will just point out, because you don't have like a city hall,
Right.
you know, other cities do this for council members, and you may want to limit it to people who have served the city, who have been elected officials.
Right.
You could limit it in that way, but we'll have it on the next agenda.
Thanh you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work on that,
No
Kim.
problem.
We'll move on to item 5A, City Clerk Report.
Mayor and council members, the only update I have is that the cleanup day was rescheduled to June 13th, 8 till noon, just because of the pandemic, so
And that's on our website.
it is.
There's been some chatter on one of the local social networks about the brush site, whether that's open or closed. Would you mind, because that's kind of a monthly event, would you mind just keeping a close eye on that? And if we're made aware that it's closed again, just make sure that we're posting it. Awesome.
The environmental center is now open, so I would think that the brushing site is probably going to continue, but I will check on it.
I think that was controlled, well, that's controlled by the pit. and so
It
they
is,
probably
yeah.
shut it
It's
down.
privately owned. They just generously do that for the lower valley here. But yeah, I saw the trailers loading up and then
Coming back.
coming back. So great, thank you, Kim. We'll move on to council member reports. Councilmember Schroeder?
I just have one thing. I just want to thank you for your time and effort on the comp plan, getting that taken care of. Otherwise, that's
Mark
it.
really did the heavy lifting. Kim did a lot of
Right,
supporting
thank you.
John, but I appreciate the
Thank you,
recognition.
Because like you said, that's something good to get done and off our plate. So
Yeah,
that's all I have.
thank you. Councilmember Wilson?
I could spend an hour on the fire department. I'll just hit the highlights. The highlights. We have.
You'll be here by yourself if you go longer than.
We have.
That's why I didn't reply, because I wasn't on the meeting and I don't need it because Tom covers it.
Yeah. Our budget for this year is probably gonna blow up, just on PPE costs alone. I mean, that is going to be, that's been brought up several times, and we're, not only the fact that we need more, it's just that because of everything that has occurred, things that used to cost $4 now cost $12, and so it's not been a fun thing. We have several of our firefighters who, by their 9 to 5 jobs, have been told that they cannot participate in fire department stuff. And a couple of them are 911 operators over in St. Croix County, and they can't afford to lose them. So they can't afford them to quarantine themselves for 14 days, whether they get sick or not. So they
Okay.
are,
So
they
it's
have
a staffing
taken themselves off with that kind of duty, which shortens the staff a little bit, but we're getting by. 911 protocols have changed because of the governor's declaration of the emergency and everything else. And if we feel that someone requires transportation but could possibly be affected by the COVID-19, we do not station a body in the back of the ambulance with them. We tie them in and take them there and unload them. And so there's a number of things that have changed in that regard. The federal government Homeland Security has been, I don't know how else to say it, sending us checks to buy for supplies and stuff like that. And they brought a few pieces of equipment. They brought a decontamination unit that you put in the cabs of the vehicles, and you turn it on and it's on for 7 minutes. And then, so they bought some, and they bought some of those infrared thermometers. We've had several discussions about long-term impact, and the fire department has been to the Afton City Council meetings trying to find when they can pull the plug on the parade, if it's so, and it's like the fair, same thing. Are we gonna have a state fair or not? Okay, what else do I have? I'm gonna let go at that. They've had to deal with about a dozen people who they suspected may have had the COVID, but as of right now, it's only been one that has been. And in general, you can call the ambulance if you think you're affected, but they're gonna ask you if you think you haven't, and if you think you do, they're gonna say, tell somebody to get in your car and take you, because we're not gonna do it.
Okay,
So,
it's good to know.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Tom.
yep.
John?
Not much on the roads, other than the rejuvenation. I believe that Tri-County swept the streets, and fairly recently, within the last 2 weeks. And according to Tim, they did Tim's side of town. And other than that, it looks like it's one of those years in which, there's not a whole lot going on, which is good for us financially. Quinlan, I think as I went down it the other day, seems to me it's getting a little rougher, but, hopefully, considering the length of the street, we don't have to do anything to it. But those of you that live close by, let us know, okay, what you think.
You spend more time on that road than I do.
So,
Okay.
nothing
Everything?
else.
I have nothing to report. Been pretty quiet. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
7 minutes longer than he wanted?
22 minutes. I said
It
16.
was a pretty good guess, I'm thinking.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Is your father still doing well in your basement?
Yes, he is. He's getting better.